Welcome to this edition of On the Scene. I'm your host, Tim Kelly. On today's program, we're going to highlight Project Lifesaver, as well as spend some time previewing the upcoming Walk to End Alzheimer's. Now, both of these events and programs are really set up to provide a lot of resources to people in our community, so you want to be sure to stay tuned. Welcome back to On the Scene. We're talking now about Project Lifesaver. And yes, we've done this segment a few times before, but it's always good to remind everyone what this important service is to the citizens of the city of Suffolk, as well as how you can get involved and help enhance these services that we offer here. And of course, to talk about it today, we have Lieutenant Mason Copeland, Suffolk Fire and Rescue, and Denise Brown, who's a board member with Project Lifesaver. I want to thank both of you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about an overview. So we talk about Project Lifesaver. What are we talking about? What is it?
Well, basically what Project Lifesaver is, Tim, it is a system and a program we use to help track lost and wandered individuals. Individuals that have conditions, diseases, disorders that cause them to wander and get lost, basically, such as Alzheimer's, children in the autistic spectrum, children with Down syndrome, individuals with traumatic brain injury, anything that would cause them to wander and get lost, basically.
Correct.
It's electronic. We use a transmitter, which is worn by the individual in the case they get lost. Once we're notified through the 911 system, we go out and we're able to track the signal of the transmitter that they're wearing.
Right. And of course, when you're dealing with a situation like that, time is critical. No matter what time of year, whether you're talking about summer where you have the heat or winter where you have the cold or whatever the circumstances are, it's important to start trying to find that person as soon as possible, and this is a way to go about doing that. Right?
Absolutely, and one of the things that was found when the program first came to be and was born per se in the year of '99 in Chesapeake, Virginia, where the program started,
right.
It was done because of failure. Back then, when we had searches for Alzheimer's patients, a lot of times the searches lasted 2 or more days and usually with not good outcomes. Since the inception of Project Lifesaver, the national average find time is less than 30 minutes with 2 to 3 searchers. So common sense tells you if it's in the middle of January and your loved one wanders off and it's 5–10 degrees outside, yes, the quicker we can find them and bring them back, the better their chance of survival. And I can say nationwide it's 100% success rate. Ours definitely at 100%.
Very good.
And one thing we'll throw out there, we were talking about time-wise. Several years ago, I tracked for a full year based on the number of searches we had.
Right.
Our average find time in the city of Suffolk was 17 minutes.
Wow.
From time we marked on scene.
It's amazing. Well, Denise, talk about your role with the board and what the board does to make Project Lifesaver work.
The board was developed to do the fundraising because this is a free service that is offered to folks in Suffolk. Right. So the fundraising is vitally important to get these bands, to get these transmitters, to get the tracking, to get our batteries and our equipment right. For the folks that we serve. So our fundraiser, big project, Luau fundraiser, is going to be in May 6th this year. Okay. So if you go on our Facebook page, if you go on our website, you can get all the information for our fundraiser. Okay. The board is acting to have our budget, to apply for grants, and to manage those clients that we have and funds that we fundraise.
Talk about, though, the importance of the program, Project Lifesaver, in the community. I mean, just from your perspective, what do you think and what have you experienced and seen? And I mean, you may deal with the fundraising aspect, but you got to know what the impact it has.
The tug for me to become a board member was the fact that I work at Lake Prince Woods Retirement Community. We do have a memory care unit, so I work with the independent living folks, and I found this to be so successful for couples, for example, the spouse's Alzheimer's or some dementia, and their loved one is wanting to keep them safe because 24-hour vigilance is something that all of us can attempt, but you got to sleep.
That's
and
right.
You got to sleep.
Realistic in the sense,
and
I understand.
So that safety feature of knowing that if that person should wander, that we're going to get that person back to their loved one. So in what I see at work, it's huge.
But talk about getting the information out, because I think the program, we've talked about it before, as I've said, but people might not know it exists. I know, obviously, if you're watching now, you know, but talk about that, how important it is to get that information out there to people, and I can let both of you chime in, so that you know it exists and how easy it is to get involved and utilize the services you guys offer.
Well, Tim, as you mentioned, one of the things that we're tasked 7 years ago now, we put together our volunteer civilian board of directors, and it was done for 2 reasons. Number one, we're short-staffed. My job is not just Project Lifesaver.
Correct.
It's a lieutenant in training division in
Yes.
charge of several other things in our department. But trying to get out and get the word out of about the program as well as the fundraising efforts, because a lot of folks didn't know about it. Our president, our prior president, and our secretary treasurer, two prominent individuals in our city that've been here all their life. When I approached them, the program was almost 10 years old at that point in our city, didn't know anything about it.
Right.
So it is important for us to get the word out for that, and that was one of the things that I tasked when we put the board together, their assistants for, and they've done an awesome job with it.
And Mason's out there. You can see him at the Suffolk Peanut Festival, the Taste of Suffolk. You can see him at the Walk to End Alzheimer's,
Yes.
which will be in downtown Suffolk in September as well. So we put Mason out there to show off our tracker and
Right.
all of our equipment and the board. So going on our Facebook page and going on our
Yes.
website.
Yes.
If you know of someone and you're watching this, you can call, go online.
Right.
We'll get that information
Got
to
it.
you. Get you signed up.
How does, when someone makes the request, I have someone, whether a relative or whatever the connection is, and need to maybe think about utilizing this service, how does that process work? Is there a certification? What do you do to make it
Basically,
happen?
what we ask is they contact the office, and normally they contact me.
Right.
The information comes to me. Just a brief interview on the phone.
Okay.
And if there's someone that qualifies, which basically, if they have any of the things I mentioned earlier,
Right.
issues,
Yes.
they qualify.
Correct.
As long as they
Correct.
live in our, and the thing is, we really like them to live in our city. If
course.
they don't live in our city, I can direct them, because I have close contacts in every
Right.
county in Suffolk surrounding us. But it's just a brief interview on the phone. I come out, they have paperwork we have to get them to fill out,
Got it.
because it's pertinent information we need to know ahead of time.
Sure.
And usually within that week, if they're scheduled and my schedule will line up, we can get their loved one in the program. Sometimes I've done it the same day.
Right.
So.
Now, in addition to the upfront cost of the band or whatever is given to the person that is wearing that, it's the batteries that are the maintenance cost. So there's some maintenance that you make sure everything is still functioning,
Absolutely.
and that's an ongoing process.
The transmitters that we use are 60-day transmitters,
Okay.
which means every 2 months, roughly, we go out and change the battery in them. We cut the band off,
Right.
because once the band's rolling, they can't just take them off,
Got it.
because that would be a fear. Patient takes them off.
On the
and
counter,
leaves,
it's not
and
doing you any good.
We
sitting
can
there,
find
yeah.
the transmitter, we won't find the
Person,
individual.
that's right, yeah.
But we go out, we cut the old band off, take the old battery out, inspect it for any damage or anything. New battery goes in, new band goes on, we test it again before we leave the house. Do it every 2 months. The price of the band and battery per battery change is probably just a little under $7
Right.
by the time everything's figured.
Sure.
So if you figure right now, and I was going to throw that out in a minute,
Yes.
our client base right now,
Right.
we've got 59 clients in the city.
Okay.
For the first time, I think, since we've had the program, we've actually had more children in the program than we do adults.
Really? Yeah.
We've got 29 in the autistic spectrum, one with Down syndrome,
Right.
and then the other 29 are going to be different types of dementia.
Sure.
So that's our biggest ongoing monthly cost. The setup cost for us for a new client going in is roughly between $250 and $300. We don't charge, as you mentioned earlier.
Right.
We're the only, and then we were a group of 3 in the Tidewood area that didn't charge. We're the only group in Tidewood that does not charge now. And the biggest problem is some of the other counties and cities don't have the ability to get out and fundraise. A municipality can't,
Right.
which is why the civilian board directors can.
Yes.
They get out and fundraise and help purchase the equipment.
Right.
The receivers we use, that we have a minimum of 2 in every fire station in the city of Suffolk. To track the signal if an individual gets lost, costs us anywhere between $1,400 and $1,500 per set. Right now we've got, like as I mentioned, 2 sets in every station in the city. Now the thing we have to remember is that equipment doesn't last forever.
That's right.
So we have to be prepared and plan to replace equipment,
Right.
as well as transmitters. Sometimes the transmitters go bad.
Right.
If Miss Jones out on so-and-so road, transmitter goes bad, we go out immediately, put a new one on her, which again is another $250 to $300.
Right.
Doesn't cost her a cent, or the family a cent,
Right.
but that's something we have to take into
There's still a
consideration.
cost, and
Still a
again, that's where the
cost.
board comes into play with the
Exactly.
fundraising efforts and
And
everything.
Suffolk has been good to us.
Yes.
Yep.
Suffolk has been very, very good to
Right.
us. Some of the local clubs, maybe the Pilot Club of Suffolk and Nansemond River Pilot Club, have
Very good.
been very, very good to
And
us.
as she mentions, that one thing I'd like to mention to the viewers is that if you belong to a civic group, church or civic group,
Yes.
and you want to learn more about the program and see it in action for your congregation if it's a church or your members in a civic group, all you guys call, we'll come out, we'll do
That
a,
would be huge
yes.
to do
we do
presentations
a presentation,
for folks, like
we
you
do a
say, getting the
demo.
word out there.
Exactly, yes.
Always do a demonstration too, so they can see exactly how it works.
I mean, I think that's the thing. There are a lot of resources, and this is just one of them in our city that people don't know are there. Of course, it's our job and others' jobs to get the word out there, and I think once people realize that service or whatever is there, you mentioned the fact there's no cost, again, thanks to the board and all the work, the hard work that you do. Everybody working together. It's that community coming together to solve problems and make resources like this available. Given the circumstances, like you say, it can be, of course, the incident can kind of unfold in many different ways, but the thing is we always want that positive outcome.
Absolutely.
And this is a great way to realize the fact that you will, you know, you talked about the numbers. I mean, the numbers tell the story right there. About how many times, I mean, on average, I don't know if you know, a year, do you have where you're activated and you need to go look for someone, on average? I mean, how does that typically run?
I can honestly tell you that the frequency of searches has gone down, which is a good thing for two reasons. It tells us that caregivers are more in tune to really watch.
Sure.
But I think we've had, average over the last 5 years, maybe 4.
Right.
I know we've had 2 searches this year.
Right.
In both cases, the searches was for an Alzheimer's patient. The find time for the first one was 20-some minutes. The second one for the same individual actually was less than 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So we're looking well within that 30-minute
Sure.
national average. So we're still doing pretty good at what we do. But the frequency of searches has gone down. It's the peace of mind, I think, for the caregivers and families, that if something happens, if they slip by them, which nobody points a finger if Grandma gets out or Johnny gets out, because that happens.
Yeah.
But the peace of mind that they know there's something in place that we can rapidly bring them back.
Denise and Lieutenant Copeland, I want to thank you both for being with us today. Talk about Project Lifesaver, a great resource here in the city of Suffolk. Again, if you want more information, we have the contact information on the screen. Be sure to make that call. Check out the Facebook page, certainly if you're willing to get involved with the board and assist there. A lot of different ways to get involved, but again, a great community service. And again, thank you both for doing everything you do for that.
Thank you, we appreciate
that. And we'll have more on the scene when we return. Welcome back to On the Scene, joined by 2 very special guests to talk about a very special topic. And join us today, of course, Suffolk Mayor Linda Johnson. And also we have Gina Columbara, who's the Executive Director of the Alzheimer's Association's Southeast Virginia chapter. So again, thank you both for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
You know, it seems like it was just a year ago, and it was, that we were here talking about the same topic, but again, we're back for a very good reason again. The 2016 Walk to End Alzheimer's, which is the Western Tidewater version, edition, if you will. It's coming up on Saturday, September 17th, right here in the city of Suffolk. Looking forward to that event. And of course, it's a great fundraiser and a way to get a lot of attention as far as when we're talking about Alzheimer's, as far as treatment, as far as what's out there and what's going on. So let's talk about this year's event. Again, Saturday, September 17th.
17th, and the mayor, again, is going to be our wonderful honorary chairperson, and we're really grateful to you for doing that.
Looking forward to it.
She always puts so much passion and talking to the local community who are dealing with this disease. And what's great about it, last year was a tremendous walk. I mean, it really was. I mean, every year is built, but last year they just hit a grand slam. Our goal for the walk was really about $42,000, and we raised almost $66,000 here in Western Tidewater. And to me, that's a validation of the urgency of the cause, that more and more people are aware of the disease, more and more people want to take action to put an end to this disease. And also, while we're working towards finding those effective treatments, those disease-modifying treatments, people want to come together to create community. So they know they're not journeying this disease alone, and that is so very important. So the Walk to End Alzheimer's was just happening around 600 communities throughout the United States in the fall, and this is our first walk of the season, one of 6, and it's great starting it off here in Western Tidewater with the mayor and the wonderful energy that we have. So this year's goal is to raise a little over $72,000, and I think we're well on the way to doing that. The committee, local committee here, is doing a great job, and we're just getting more and more interest in the walk. And again, it's all about that awareness building and people wanting to reach out and even come to see what is going on and what's available. Because when people do come to the walk, they really get to understand all the various support services that are available. And that's so important to them, because so many of them feel very alone and don't know where to turn, because the diagnosis of Alzheimer or some form of dementia can be very devastating, especially if you don't know a lot about it.
Absolutely.
And I think you hit on it there where you talk about it's not just the walk, it's not just the fundraising, but it's the fact of, you said, the sense of community and the fact the information is there, because I think, like you said, it's a lot of times people feel isolated and they don't know where to go, and this is a great opportunity to come out and get some information, maybe start on that path to getting some services or some assistance that you need to kind of help you through this process.
Right, exactly. And really just being able to just connect with people
Yes.
is so very important.
Yes.
So, you know, people can go to alz.org /walk and sign up for it. Our team retention is up. Our new team signing up is up. So our participants is up. So I think I can't believe it's a month out.
Who's looking at a calendar?
That's
you know?
right, that's right. But it's going to be a great walk. And
Right.
again, we're going to be raffling off a car.
Very good.
We have a 2015 RAV4 SUV XLE. For $5 raffle tickets, and last year all 6 walks in our community raised over $735,000,
incredible.
which was about a 10% increase from the previous year.
Good.
So again, that money helps fuel research, but
Yes.
also fuel the support programs that we have in our local community, and many of them are provided to our families at no charge.
I think we've always been proud, and Mayor, you can certainly attest to this, that the Suffolk community and Western Tidewater as a whole is certainly very generous in their support, and certainly we're encouraging everyone to participate this year. And Mayor, talk a little bit about your role here with this event, and just with Alzheimer's, and as far as the impetus behind you getting involved. Let me ask you that.
Well, I think for me, you know, as I said, I've seen more and more over the years people that I know and people whose parents, not always parents, sometimes younger people that are touched with the disease, and the families and what they go through, the caregiving aspect. I think sometimes people do feel, as Gina said, very much alone. This is an opportunity to see that you're not alone, and you know, there are lots of vendors out there with help, as well as just individuals who have been through this and can give you some, just a hug,
Right.
you know, an amazing, just to say, I'm here for you. A couple of years ago, I found just a person that lived right across, less than a quarter of a mile from me, and I had no idea what she'd been going through. So it's a personal disease, and yet it's something that needs to be shared, and it needs to be, people need help.
Yes.
And I think that's really what it's all about. And I just want to take a moment to publicly thank Gino, because what he just said, the walks are all around the region, and they're becoming extremely successful. You know, you started it with a very small seed, and it's just grown and grown. But for me, for one thing, I'm blessed that my family has not dealt with it, so I feel a real responsibility to share. And also just the fact that, you know, everyone's going through something, and you never need to feel alone.
Right.
And this walk, it just makes you feel so good when you're there. You feel like you're with people who love you and you love, and it's just a great experience. So I would encourage everyone, come out, be a part of it. You know, it's just a really, really nice morning.
And of course, everything's taking place at Constance Wharf Park and Marina.
Right.
So again, a great location. We stage a lot of events similar to this there. So again, it's a great staging point. But let's talk about the Promise Garden. Talk about what that is and what element that plays for the day of the event.
Well, it really brings to light why we're all there, right? We have 4 flowers, and as people come in to register, and registration starts about 8:30, and the ceremony begins around 9:30. They get a Promise Garden. There's 4 different colors. The blue is for actually someone who is affected, who is currently living with the disease. I mean, yes, the blue's, the purple is someone who's died as a result of the disease. The yellow is someone who's a caregiver, and the orange is someone who's an advocate. So everyone picks their color, and the flowers represent our promise to put an end to this disease. So usually we have somebody representing each flower to talk about their respective role in holding that flower. So whether they lost someone with the disease or whether they're living currently with the disease. And you know, unfortunately, we see more and more of the blue flowers at our walks, which is a good thing because they're coming out, they're taking action, and they're facing it head on. And I commend those people a great deal.
Sure.
And also we see a lot of purple flowers as well. And definitely the yellow in terms of the caregivers. I mean, just in the state of Virginia, there's almost 450,000 caregivers. And they're providing over 5 million hours of care for their loved one, unpaid, at a value of $6.3 billion. That's quite amazing.
It is.
And so really, it's about really bringing it all together. And when you see all those flowers up, it's wonderful. Right. And some of that, you know, the mayor does really well is not only is she there as a representative of the city, as someone who truly cares and really speaks to this disease, but she actually walks
Absolutely.
So she
Absolutely.
walks the talk. So she actually walks the route and is there
Right.
to greet people as they go, and also she comes back and you know, she's there and we greet her back. So that's a wonderful thing. So it's really energizing. People leave with that sense of, wow, I think I can make through. I can get through this, or at least I know what resources are out there. And I tell you what, in our communities, we have a wealth of resources. You know,
do.
We really
and
do.
people don't realize sometimes,
Yes.
I think they also, the normal, just average person doesn't know the research going on because
Correct.
there's so much going on. And, you know, there is hope
Yes.
and there's light at that
Yes.
end of that tunnel.
Yes.
It's just to continue to raise that money and that awareness. The one thing I want to add too is you don't have to come out and tell your story.
Right.
You don't have to come out and share. I mean, I've seen people quietly just being there.
Right.
And, you know, however it is for you is what it needs to be. But that morning could say something to someone that we have no idea, and that's our goal, just to help
definitely.
people
Right.
through the process. So it's a great morning in our city.
Well, certainly, you know, it is a walk, so it's certainly for most people, it's taking that first step, literally, to
Absolutely.
getting the information, getting the connection. And you talk about the care providers. I said, I think sometimes we think about people that have, you know, Alzheimer's disease or any kind of disease out there, but it's the care provider that, not necessarily that I don't want to use the phrase suffers more, but has the impact of that because of having, you talk about the unpaid, the hours, the time, the resources, things that go into that. I don't think we think about that sometimes. And those folks need to connect so they can have a support group or have people that they can relate to.
It's truly overwhelming.
Yes.
I mean, it can be more than we can even imagine. So I think we need to support and uplift the caregivers
Yes.
as much as anyone.
Right.
And nationally, caregivers are losing about $15,000 of annual income just taking care of their loved one, and really foregoing things that they need, like, you know, foregoing on food and medical care for themselves.
Correct.
Because
Yes. Right.
they're participating in the care and paying for that care. So it has a real economic impact to the whole family unit, and especially that one specific caregiver.
Sure.
Because usually there is one caregiver.
Right,
you know.
right.
There are those times when it's a real blessing, the whole family gets involved in it, but usually there's one that is the point person, and it can be very overwhelming if you're doing it by yourself.
Yes.
Often they jeopardize their own health.
Correct.
And,
I know,
you
it's yeah.
so this is a point for us to surround them as
Yes.
well and give them the help they need.
And again, Saturday, September 17th, the 2016 the walk to End Alzheimer's, because again, that's the goal that we're striving for.
Right.
But just real quickly, the Hope for Alzheimer's Act. If you
Yes.
could talk a little bit about that and the impact that it's had and kind of where we are with that.
Yeah,
right now.
we've come a long way with that. That's been a real legislative priority for the Alzheimer's Association. What it is the Health Outcomes Planning and Education Act for Alzheimer's, and it has three components. One is to really make sure that there is a written diagnosis in the person's medical record.
Right.
The second is care planning, which is very important,
Sure.
and functional cognitive assessment. And the third is to have the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services actually train providers and also talk about barriers in terms of providing that care planning. Well, just recently, and just to say, the HOPE Act has gotten bipartisan support.
Correct.
So we're trying to really get that implemented, and we've been working very hard on that. But the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services are putting forth a policy regulation to really pay for that second component, that cognitive and functional assessment and care planning, which would be tremendous, because we know very well that with proper care planning results in outcomes very positive to the individual with the disease as well as their caregivers. And it can actually really help with coordination of care, because most people with Alzheimer's are older.
Yes.
And most older people have many health challenges,
Correct.
heart disease,
Yes.
diabetes. So proper care planning, when we integrate that instead of dealing with it individually,
Correct.
separately, really can reduce hospitalization. And that's a big cost saving in itself. A recent study in Boston, New York said that in 2013, 369,000 individuals were hospitalized who had Alzheimer's at a cost of $2.6 billion. Those admissions could have been potentially avoided
Right.
with proper care planning.
Sure.
And also, proper care planning allows those families to understand about what treatments are available, both medically and non-medical, about what support services are available, about what's happening in research. So it also just adds to the quality of life. So we're hoping that that policy regulation will take effect in January 2017.
Very good. Very good. So some positive news right there, and
Absolutely.
Definitely.
that has a excuse me, a huge impact as far as what we're working on here. So again, talking about the walk again, Saturday, September 17th.
Right.
You gave the website address. You can go and sign up. Can you sign up the day of? Just out of curiosity?
Yeah, you can.
But you prefer people to register ahead of time if possible, correct?
Yeah, because you know they get when they sign up, and if they raise $100 or more, they get a T-shirt.
Perfect. Okay.
And those T-shirts are very important.
I would imagine they are.
But don't let not signing up stop you from coming.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, please come,
Yes.
and we'll welcome you, and we have plenty of Promise Garden flowers and things of that nature. You know, it's about the energy that it creates, because the more and more people, then somebody really gets connected.
Yes.
And you know, it's also about what they can do too, because many people want to do something. So it's not only about the walk, but they can sign up to be an advocate.
Right.
They can learn about our trial match program to connect to clinical trials. They learn about our support groups. They learn about our community programs that we do in the communities that are free, that can help them really understand the disease process and know what's available.
You know, one of the things I've seen happen, which is really interesting, is to see someone go over to a caregiver and say, I have a few hours a week, you know, let me give you a break.
Yes.
Just something that simple to let them go and do something for a couple hours and not have to think about what they're dealing with, you know, on a daily basis.
A small thing, but has a huge impact.
Absolutely,
Yes.
it does. You know, just being there for each other.
Right.
I think it's a big piece of it. So put your tennis shoes on and let's walk.
Indeed.
And also, you know, they can sign up by just calling our 800 number,
Okay.
so 800-272-3900, and that's also if they need support.
Right.
So that's 24/7, and then the website alz.org/walk. They just put in the zip code.
Right.
It takes them right to the website.
Very good. Okay, so again, the 2016 Walk to End Alzheimer's here in the city of Suffolk. Looking forward to it. And Mayor and Gino, thank you both for being with us today to talk about this very important topic.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor. You're the best.
And that will do it for this edition of On the Scene. I'm your host, Tim Kelly. We will see you next time.